Right now, two narrow strips of water, each barely wider than the length of a football field, hold the fate of the global economy in their grip. One of them is under a full naval blockade. The other is controlled by an armed group that answers to no government. And if both of them close at the same time, something that could happen within days. Nearly 30% of the world's energy supply vanishes overnight. But here's what no one is telling you. The real danger isn't the blockade itself. It's what happens next, a chain reaction that has already begun and that no one seems able to stop. And it all starts with a challenge that may have just been answered. To understand why the world is closer to an energy crisis than at any point in half a century, you need to understand one piece of geography, the Strait of Hormuz. It sits between Iran and Oman, at the mouth of the Persian Gulf, 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, two shipping lanes, each just 2 miles across, separated by a 2-mile buffer zone. That's it. That's all there is. Every single day, roughly 21 million barrels of oil pass through this corridor. That is about 20% of all the oil consumed on the entire planet. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, some of the wealthiest nations on Earth, all depend on this single passage to get their oil to market. Without it, their crude has nowhere to go. Their economies have no oxygen. There is no detour. There is no shortcut. There is no alternative that works at the scale the world needs. And here is what makes this strait so uniquely dangerous. It is surrounded on one side by Iran, a nation that has always understood the leverage this geography gives it. For decades, whenever tensions rose, Iran would remind the world of a simple fact, that it could, if it chose, choke this passage shut. But it was always a threat, a card held, never played. Until now. In April of this year, a full naval blockade was imposed on every Iranian port along the strait. No ships entering, no ships leaving. The goal, to cut off Iran's primary source of revenue, oil, and force a resolution to the ongoing confrontation. The immediate result was dramatic. Iran's oil exports, roughly 1.4 million barrels per day, came to a halt. At current prices, that translates to approximately $400 million per day that stopped flowing into Iran's economy. But a blockade is not a switch you flip. It's a pressure that builds. And the pressure creates consequences that go far beyond one country. Let's be precise about what's happening, because the details matter. The blockade does not seal the entire Strait of Hormuz. Ships heading to non-Iranian ports, Saudi, Emirati, Kuwaiti, are still free to pass. What's being blocked is any vessel entering or exiting an Iranian port. This sounds simple. It is not. The strait handles thousands of transits per year, identifying which ships are heading to Iranian ports, intercepting them, inspecting them, and, if necessary, escorting them to a holding area requires enormous resources. Every interception is complex. Every boarding is a calculated risk. And then there is the question of time. Iran has limited onshore storage capacity. Within roughly 2 weeks of a full export shutdown, Iran faces a critical problem. There is physically nowhere to store the oil it continues to pump from the ground. Shutting down wells is technically difficult and damages long-term production capacity. It's not something you do lightly. It's not something you can easily reverse. Reports indicate that Iran anticipated this scenario. In the weeks before the blockade began, oil reserves were quietly positioned outside the Persian Gulf, a strategic stockpile designed to provide some revenue, even if the strait was closed. But that stockpile is finite, and every day it shrinks. The economic pressure is real. $400 million per day, roughly $13 billion per month. For a country whose economy was already strained, this is not an inconvenience. This is an existential threat. But here is where the story takes a turn that almost no one is paying attention to, because there is a second choke point, and it might be even more dangerous than the first. If you look at a map of the Middle East, the Strait of Hormuz is the obvious choke point. the one everyone knows about, the one that makes headlines. But now zoom out. Follow the coastline south, past Oman, past Yemen, and there, at the southern tip of the Arabian Peninsula, where the Red Sea meets the Gulf of Aden, you'll find it. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, 18 miles wide at its narrowest, sitting between Yemen and the Horn of Africa, between Djibouti and Eritrea. Roughly 12% of all global maritime oil trade passes through this corridor. But the real significance of Bab el-Mandeb isn't the oil that passes through it. It's what lies on the other side, the Suez Canal. If you want to move anything from the Middle East or Asia to Europe and the Mediterranean, you go through Bab el-Mandeb first. It is the gateway to the gateway. And who controls the approaches to Bab el-Mandeb? Not a national government. An armed group based in Yemen, with close ties to Iran and a proven ability to disrupt international shipping. In 2023 and 2024, this group demonstrated exactly how capable it was, forcing some of the world's largest shipping companies to reroute around the entire continent of Africa, adding weeks and billions of dollars in costs. Now, here is the chess move that makes this situation genuinely frightening. When the Strait of Hormuz was effectively closed earlier this year, Saudi Arabia activated its contingency plan, a pipeline called the Petroline. Built in the 1980s, it's a 600-mile conduit that carries crude oil from the fields in eastern Saudi Arabia to the port of Yanbu on the Red Sea coast. Before the current confrontation, this pipeline was moving about 700,000 barrels per day. Since then, that volume has surged to nearly 7 million barrels per day, its absolute maximum capacity. This is how the Saudis managed to keep oil flowing to markets, bypassing Hormuz entirely. But here is the vulnerability that almost nobody is discussing. The oil leaves Yanbu, it enters the Red Sea, and then it has to pass through Bab el-Mandeb to reach its destination. If Bab el-Mandeb closes, and the group that controls it has already said this would be one of their first responses, Saudi Arabia's only remaining export route collapses entirely. No Hormuz on one side, no Bab el-Mandeb on the other. The kingdom, whose entire economy, social stability, and government spending depend on oil exports, would be effectively landlocked. No oil out, no revenue in. A fiscal crisis within weeks. This is exactly why, according to multiple reports, Riyadh has been privately urging the blockade to be lifted, not because they oppose the pressure on Iran, but because they fear the retaliation. If Iran activates its allies in Yemen, Saudi Arabia pays the price, and the numbers are staggering. If both straits close simultaneously, analysts estimate that nearly 30% of the world's energy supply would be cut off. Oil prices could surge past $150 per barrel, a level not seen in modern history. The ripple effects, fuel costs, transportation, food prices, manufacturing, would touch every economy on Earth. 2 straits, 40 miles of water combined, and the entire global economy hanging in the balance. Now, there's one more layer to this story, and it might be the most fascinating of all. For weeks, Iran claimed it had transformed the Strait of Hormuz into something no ship could safely cross, seeded with underwater explosives that would make any transit a gamble with destruction. The message was deliberate and clear: enter at your own risk. And it worked. Insurance rates for tankers transiting the strait skyrocketed. Shipping companies refused to send vessels through. The mere claim, even without visible proof, was enough to shut down commercial traffic. In geopolitics, the perception of danger can be just as effective as the danger itself. But then something remarkable happened. In broad daylight, deliberately visible, deliberately conspicuous, 2 naval vessels crossed the entire length of the strait. They entered from one side and exited from the other. No incidents, no confrontations, no explosions. They crossed as if nothing was there. State-controlled media immediately claimed the ships had been challenged and turned back. But this same outlet had been caught spreading false reports multiple times during the confrontation. At least 3 independent sources confirmed the ships completed their full transit. Satellite tracking data showed the movement clearly. In the age of real-time satellite imagery, it's very difficult to lie about where a ship has been. So the question becomes, if those waters were truly impassable, if they were really filled with hidden dangers, why did nothing happen? There are 3 possibilities. The first, the entire claim was a psychological operation, a carefully constructed perception of danger, designed to keep ships away without ever having to follow through. A challenge that was never backed by reality. In strategic terms, this would be brilliant, achieving the effect of a physical barrier without the cost, risk, or international consequences of actually creating one. The second, the underwater devices existed, but control was lost. Officials acknowledged that the exact locations might not be fully known, possibly because the personnel who placed them did not survive to record the coordinates. If true, this creates a different kind of danger, not a controlled defensive measure, but an uncontrolled hazard drifting in one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. The third, the devices are real, but concentrated in specific areas, and the transit route, what the Navy calls a Q route, threaded through a safe corridor identified by underwater scanning technology. Regardless of which explanation is true, the psychological impact of that crossing was enormous. For weeks, Iran had projected total control over the strait. Ships were told to coordinate with Iranian forces before crossing. Limits were imposed, no more than 15 transits per day, it was said. Then 2 ships crossed without asking, and nothing happened. In geopolitics, when you issue a challenge and someone answers it, and you do nothing, you lose something almost impossible to recover: credibility, the perception of control, the ability to deter without acting. That single crossing may have done more to reshape this confrontation than any diplomatic meeting or economic measure, because the world began to wonder, was Iran's grip on the strait real, or was it an illusion all along? The ceasefire is set to expire within days, and if no agreement is reached, 3 scenarios emerge. In the first, the group in Yemen acts on its stated intention and disrupts Bab el-Mandeb. Both straits become compromised simultaneously. 30% of global energy is cut off. Oil prices reach historic levels. The global economy enters a period of disruption not seen since the 1970s. In the second, the confrontation escalates further. Both sides send stronger signals. More assets move into the region. The pressure intensifies. But with domestic politics, economic concerns, and public opinion all pulling in different directions, the appetite for escalation is uncertain. In the third, and perhaps the most unsettling scenario, the situation is simply left unresolved. The major power walks away. The Gulf states and Europe are left to navigate on their own. The strait remains in a state of ambiguity, not fully open, not fully closed. A permanent gray zone where risk never fully recedes and insurance premiums never fully drop. Meanwhile, the diplomatic landscape is shifting in ways not seen in decades. Traditional alliances are fraying. New coalitions are forming. Nations that once moved in lockstep are publicly breaking apart over how to respond to this confrontation. Some are calling for restraint. Others are demanding action. And in the background, major global powers are positioning themselves, not openly, but quietly, supporting different sides of the equation, just enough to shape the outcome without being drawn into it directly. The old certainties are crumbling, and at the center of it all, a 21-mile stretch of water, the narrowest, most consequential bottleneck on Earth, holds the answer to a question that affects every person alive. The Strait of Hormuz has always been the world's most critical choke point, but right now, it's more than geography. It's a mirror, reflecting every fracture in the global order. The fraying of old partnerships, the rise of new power dynamics, the realization that the modern world's energy supply depends on a passage so narrow that you could almost see from one side to the other on a clear day. The ceasefire clock is ticking. The underwater dangers may or may not be real. And two of the most important passages on Earth hang in the balance. The question isn't whether this situation is dangerous, it's whether anyone can prevent what comes next. If this helped you understand what's really happening in the Strait of Hormuz, subscribe and turn on notifications. We're covering every development, and if you want to go deeper into the strategic significance of these waterways, watch this video next.